What's up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to episode 5 of the Fat Boy Chronicles. I am not in my car today. I am beat. My body is so sore everywhere. I can barely sit down without my legs shaking and feeling like they're going to fall apart. But I am still out here putting in the work. Okay? I can't go to the gym right now and lift weights. I don't think it's productive. You definitely need to take time to recover. Recovery is arguably just as important as your diet and your training. Your body needs time to recover. And so we're just going on a walk today. I'm out here in, I don't even know where. I've never even been here. But I want to make this video to tell you guys a little bit more about my story. I have definitely given you guys bits and pieces and chunks of my story in these past couple videos, but we are gonna sit down and get real personal. So grab the tissues and maybe a roller dog to get through it. Might be rough, but here we go. My name is Brandon. Obviously, you guys know that. I was the fat kid in my family growing up, and the fat kid in class, the fat kid basically everywhere. I was just so big. I did not like how big I was. I think when I was around 8 or 9 years old is when I started to get a little bit chubby, you know. And my parents were split up, and so on my dad's side of things, he was very on top of us and what we ate and making sure we exercised and all that stuff. I think he had great intentions, but it was really difficult because we were really hard to deal with, me and my brothers, especially me. I loved food so much, and it made it incredibly hard because when we would go to my mom's house, we just had free reign to whatever we wanted. And so we were so restricted at my dad's house that when we went to go visit mom, it was open season on that cabinet, you know? And so I moved to my mom's when I was about 10 years old and started to seriously put on weight. I don't blame my mom for that. I think that she also had good intentions, but these were just two different parenting styles, and so I think that for what they were given and dealt, that they did a decent job, and I'm very grateful for both of them. I started to pack on weight in about 5th grade, started to really jump up in my clothing size, shopping for pants, and all that just became more and more difficult for me. My legs, I carried so much weight in my legs. I had such a big butt that trying on jeans was a nightmare. I dreaded going to the clothing store to get new pants. The problem is that I would blow through these jeans. I would literally blow out the insides of them from the friction and just from my large size. And so we were always shopping for pants, and I was always tearing them up, and it started to get really bad. When I was 14, I met a friend who I accredit a lot of my knowledge and my experience and a lot of the principles that I have set in stone when it comes to training and my outlook on training and exercise in general and in diet. So when I was 14, I wasn't just friends out of the gate with this guy, but I remember he would walk into class and he was jacked. This guy had, very profound biceps and a very large chest, and I admired him very much. And I was very shy and insecure, and I didn't think that he would want to be friends with somebody like me. So eventually I built up the courage to go talk to him, and to my surprise, he was so nice. He was just somebody I got along with very easily. We found a common interest in video games, and so we would play video games. A couple weeks into knowing this guy, and I was playing video games with him late one night, and he brought up my weight, and I could tell he was a little bit nervous about bringing it up, but I was so ready to hear what he had to say and so ready to accept the opportunity and the invite that he was ready to extend to me. And long story short, he told me that if I got a gym membership at the gym that he was going to at the time, he would train with me. And I come to find out that he also grew up as the fat kid. And I couldn't believe it because he, was really tall. He was a good looking guy and really buff. And every girl in my class wanted this guy. So we started training intense. He was very, very passionate about being controlled and really owning the weight. He was very good at not ego lifting and very good at not letting me ego lift and get ahead of myself. We were in the gym 5 to 6 days a week for 2 to 3 hours at a time, and I really accredit a lot of the knowledge that I have because of this guy. I don't know if I would have ever gotten to that point that I did without his guidance and direction. He put me onto so many amazing he put me onto so many amazing fitness influencers at the time, guys like Rich Piana, Jay Cutler, Mike O'Hearn. Some of these guys that just are funny, they're so personable, they're so relatable, but they really knew how to reach everybody. A guy like Rich Piana was so open and honest about his enhancements that he was taking, and he always advocated for real food and for training the correct way. And even though he was jacked up on steroids, he spoke a lot of truth. And so rest in peace to Rich. I know he had such an impact on people. I know he had an impact on me, and so I'm super grateful for guys like that. And anyways, we trained for about a year and a half, and I eventually went to go live back with my dad and attend high school in Los Angeles. I continued on. I continued training. I continued to grow and expand my knowledge in nutrition and exercise. I eventually joined the football team at my high school, which was crazy. As somebody who's always been so out of shape and always had the dream of playing football on a team, to be able to, reap the reward of my effort and be on a football team was amazing. It was so hard. I don't think that I had the discipline that I really needed to stay with it, but I played for a season and it was fun, and I'm super grateful that I had that experience. Anyways, after a few years, I started to just kind of go off the rails. My mental health took a decline. I really started to get into my head. That voice that I thought I had removed from my head was just working overtime in the shadows, and so I kind of got to a point where I just started to put on weight. I didn't really see the point in continuing to train all the time. I dropped out of high school and I just exploded. When I was 14, my peak weight was 330 pounds. By the time I was 19 years old, I weighed 415 pounds. It was really hard. What was incredibly hard is that I lost so much weight and wasn't the fat kid anymore, and then blowing up far past where I had ever been. And now I wasn't just the fat guy, I was the beast in the room, not in a good way. And so I just blew up. I didn't know how much I weighed until I went to my uncle's one day for Thanksgiving, and he had a nice scale, a scale nice enough to tell me that I was 415 pounds. The scale at my mom's house went up to 300 pounds, and so I went to my uncle's and I weighed myself and looked in the mirror, and I was just disgusted. I was so hopeless. I was so lost. It hurt so bad knowing that I put in all that work and I just wasted it away. Everybody knew that I was gaining weight, but it was this Thanksgiving at my uncle's that really set some things in for me, and some things started to click. I mean, I knew I was huge, but my uncle, he sort of called me out in front of everybody. He's like, "Brandon, what happened, man? It looks like you ate yourself. What are you doing, dude?" And I'll never forget those words. I'll never forget that conversation I had with my uncle. He was right. I I did eat myself. I ate myself all the way to 415 pounds. But something clicked. I was a high school dropout, like I mentioned. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with my life, but I knew that whatever I was going to do, that I needed to get back in shape. So after that conversation at my uncle's house, I went home, and it was about a 5 or 6 hour drive home, and I did a lot of thinking and reflecting. I knew that this was going to take maybe more than I had to give, but I knew something needed to be done. I went home. I started to go to the gym, and then COVID happened, and the gyms closed down. So, what did I do? I just started gaining more weight. I didn't have a scale at the time to tell me how heavy I was, but I knew I was putting on more weight. I spiraled into depression again. I started to eat myself to death. I fell into drug addiction and turning to alcohol and these drugs for comfort and satisfaction where I couldn't find it. And obviously, that did not fulfill me. I was killing myself doing these things. But one day, something clicked. One day, a switch just flipped, and I was standing in the mirror and I said, "You're going to be a U.S. Army soldier." It's crazy. I was at least 415 pounds. Who knows how much I actually was, but I made a promise to myself that day. And so I picked up the phone. I called the Army recruiter and told him I wanted to join. He said, "Great." He goes, "Let's get you down here. We'll make an appointment. We'll tape you and, figure out what you want to do and all that kind of stuff." And I told him, "Well, I might have a hard time passing tape. I am about 415 to 450 pounds." And after a long pause, the recruiter, kind of hiding his chuckle, told me to give him a call in a couple years. And I said, "No need, sir. Give me 6 months." He laughed and said, "You know, you're not the next David Goggins, man. Like, that's not realistic. Like, this is going to take a lot longer than that." And I said, "No, no, no, no. Let's get the ball rolling." And so I said, "Let's get the ball rolling." So I didn't have a gym membership. The gyms are closed down because of COVID, and I was at a loss of what to do. So I started to go outside and run. I started running up the street, and when I say run, I mean walk pretty fast for as big as I was until I was tired, and then shimmy some more until I was tired. Eventually, a neighbor had a punching bag that they were getting rid of. And I thought, "Oh, great, I can use that." And so I set up this punching bag in my garage and started to train. It was probably a stupid idea, but I put on a sweater and sweatpants and wrapped my socks over my sweatpants and put these gloves on that I got from Ep.5 and started going at it. It was summertime in Nevada. So it was probably about 110 to 120 degrees out on any given day. And I was going inside of a garage that had no AC and just putting in the work. In 3 months, I stepped on my scale at my mom's house and it said 299.8. At that moment, it became so real for me. It became so apparent for me. And I went down to the recruiter's office And he was like, "Oh, what's going on? Who are you?" And I told him, like, I called here a few months ago and I'm down 100 pounds. I really want to get the ball rolling because I'm going to lose 100 more pounds. And then he started to take me serious. Then he started to get the ball rolling. And so I continued to train each and every day. The gyms opened back up, which was great. So I started weight training again. Eventually, I knew I needed to start running again. I knew that if I was going to be a soldier, that I needed to pass the physical test. And so for the first time in my life, I started running, and running with intention. I could not run even a lap at my gym. It was 6 laps to a mile, and I could run maybe a quarter of that, quarter of a lap. But I pressed forward, and in just a few months, I was running, like really running. I went from a 14-minute mile to a 13 to a 12 to an 11, and eventually I did a sub 10-minute mile. And the fire was roaring. I was feeling so great. I was putting in the work each and every day. The diet was good, the training was good, every single thing was good. I eventually I went to the recruiter and we taped myself and I passed tape. I still was clutching on and smoking weed a lot, and I knew I needed to give that up, and so I did. And I told my recruiter that I was quitting, and we gave it the necessary amount of time. I went in, I tested, I was clean, I was passing tape, everything was good. I signed my contract, I went to MEPS, passed MEPS, I went and swore in and got a ship date. 2 weeks before my ship date, I got a call from the recruiter's boss, and he told me that we were going to need to redo my P test at MEPS, and I wasn't going to be able to ship out. I was crushed. It felt like everything was for nothing for about 5 seconds. And then I told myself, we're going to get through this. Nothing's going to stop me. So I went back to MEPS. I peed clean. Everything was good. And then I get another phone call. They wanted all these letters of recommendation because I failed my first test. So I submitted the letters. They were no good. So then I submitted new letters. They were no good. My recruiter kind of sort of just started not contacting me anymore, and I really started to lose hope, and it was really hard. I stopped running, I stopped training, I sort of gave up that idea. I'm so thankful that I was able to reignite that fire in just a few months and really start taking things serious. And I started running again, started running with a 40-pound vest. I got down to the best shape in my life. I was 220 pounds and happy. I was so happy. I felt so good. But I knew there was something missing. I gave up again. I started to eat recklessly. I started to just do the things I wanted to do. And I wasn't blowing up, but I got to about 250 pounds and was kind of just not in the greatest shape. Eventually, I met my wife and we hit it off. I was in the first relationship I've ever been in my life. And when they talk about marriage weight, I get it. I finally felt loved and accepted for who I was and sort of let myself go. I spiraled all the way up to 315 pounds again. And I realized that I needed to do this for myself. I needed to not lose weight for some girl. I didn't need to lose weight for a job, nothing like that. I needed to lose the weight because that is the happy me. And so here we are. I started making changes a few months back, being more restrictive on my diet, being a little bit more active, and now we're back in the gym. We are lit up again. We are really feeling it, and we're back down to 270. I weighed in last Sunday. We'll be weighing in again this Sunday, see if we've made any progress. Regardless, if that number says 3 or 4 pounds higher or 3 or 4 pounds lower, it doesn't matter. We're going to stay consistent. We're going to stay getting after it, and we're going to keep moving forward. Okay? This is something that you have to find within yourself. Okay? Doing anything, accomplishing any goal for somebody else's satisfaction is not sustainable. Okay? You have to find a reason internally and hold on to it, and always remember why you started. Remember how you felt when you couldn't fit on that roller coaster, or you couldn't go on something because you were too heavy. Just remember that feeling. Remember that why. If you don't have a why, find one. Find one and hold on to it. Because when those demons and those anxieties come, you better be ready and you best have an answer. So we will be back at it, guys, next week. We are going to continue the Fat Boy Chronicles, and I'm so pumped. I'm so looking forward to next week. I just wanted to share this story with you guys and really make myself vulnerable. I didn't have the best hand dealt to me, but I'm making it work and I'm getting through it. And I know that each and every single one of you can work past all of those obstacles and all of those challenges that you guys have. So stay motivated, find your why, hold on to it. And stop being a bitch. I love you guys. We'll see you again.